Questions orales, oral questions. L'honorable député de Louis.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam Speaker, in 2 weeks all Canadians will celebrate Christmas, but this Christmas might not be so joyous as Canadians would have wished. Why? Because the first concern of all Canadian families today is the cost of living, which continues to rise. Madam Speaker, for days and weeks we've been talking about it, and yesterday the figures came out. The Canadian Food Price Report tells us that it will cost $1,000 more for all Canadian families. Why is the government refusing to deal with inflation, which is hitting all Canadian families? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Madam Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for the question. I congratulate him on his re-election with regard to the question of concern that Canadians are facing with regard to inflation. We know that this is a global phenomenon and not just a problem here in Canada. I want to reassure Canadians that we are working hard to make life more affordable. Our plan for childcare will considerably reduce the costs for Canadian families. We are determined to tackle the question of affordability in housing. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Madam Speaker, I'm sure that the Minister of Tourism and all other 338 members in the House know that this problem is not just a global phenomenon. It's directly hitting Canadian families. I invite the Minister of Tourism to go to the food banks in his riding and to tell them it's a global problem, don't worry. No, Madam Speaker, it's hitting Canadian families, and this government is refusing to talk about it, to barely a mention in the throne speech. Inflation just once. When will the government really tackle inflation, which is hitting Canadian families? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Madam Speaker, allow me to talk in specific terms in how our government is helping families face the affordability challenge. A single mom with 2 kids will get $13,600 from the Canada Child Benefit. The average family in Saskatchewan will get nearly $1,000 in the carbon tax rebate. A student will save $3,000 due to changes to the student loan programs. That's how we're helping people deal with affordability. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Madam Speaker, when fruits cost 5% more, when vegetables cost 7% more, when dairy products cost 8% more, it's time to take action with concrete action to tackle inflation. The first thing they should do is to control spending, because if nothing is done, Madam Speaker, all Canadian families will pay dearly. Just inflation, it means that it's just impossible for families to keep their heads above water. When will the government tackle directly this problem that's affecting all Canadian families? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Madam Speaker, since this government came to power, we have worked to make life more affordable for Canadians. We worked the first time that I was here on a vote to reduce taxes for middle-class families. We support families. We increased support for seniors, reduced taxes for small businesses, increased the Canadian Workers' Benefit, increasing the student grant to make life more affordable.
Inflation is rising, and Canadians are going to feel it even more at Christmas. For many, it won't be just gifts and presents that are more expensive this year, but putting food on the table for families and friends. If you can even afford to plan a Christmas dinner, a turkey will cost 25% more, eggs for your eggnog are up 7.4%, bacon for breakfast is up 20.2%. When will the minister take action and address this inflation crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, let me share some of the ways that our government is making life more affordable for Canadians. A single mom with 2 kids will receive $13,600 from the Canada Child Benefit. The average family in Saskatchewan will get almost $1,000 back in their carbon price. A student will save more than $3,000 thanks to the changes we made to the loans program. And in Alberta, starting in January, thanks to our work, a family with 2 kids will save at minimum $12,000 a year. That is how we're making life more affordable, Madam Speaker.
I apologize. There seems to be a problem with the interpretation. You did not understand the question. We will double check the answer. You did not get the question either. I apologize. Can we now listen to the interpretation?
Now, is it working now? Yes? Alors, on recommence.
We shall re-begin.
Member Calgary Minderpoor to start her question over, and we will get the answer from the minister over.
Inflation is rising, and Canadians are going to feel it even more at Christmas. For many, it won't be just gifts and presents that are more expensive this year, but putting food on the table for families and friends. If you can even afford to plan a Christmas dinner, a turkey will cost 25% more, eggs for your eggnog are up 7.4%, bacon for breakfast is up 20.2%. When will the minister take action and address this inflation crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Speaker, let me share some of the ways that the government is helping Canadians with the very real challenge of affordability. A single mom with 2 kids will receive $13,600 from the Canada Child Benefit. The average family in Saskatchewan will get almost $1,000 in their carbon price rebate. A student will save more than $3,000 thanks to the changes we made to the loan programs. And in Alberta, a family of 2 using childcare starting January 1 will save at a minimum $12,000. That's how we're making life more affordable for all Canadians.
Do you want to ask members to hold off? They're not being called on to speak at this point. And so we do want to hear the question just as much as we want to hear the answer. The honourable member Calgary Minderpoor.
Inflation is making goods and services more expensive this Christmas. Families were already struggling to make ends meet, and now many will have to decide between heating their homes or feeding their families. Natural gas is up 18.7%, and food bank visits have climbed 20% and are expected to double in the months ahead. The costs keep climbing, but the paychecks just aren't keeping up. Will the government start taking this crisis seriously and address inflation before the clock strikes midnight?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, we absolutely understand that inflation and affordability are pressing concerns for Canadians. We also know that this is a global phenomenon and not a made-in-Canada issue. I also want to assure Canadians that we're working hard to make life more affordable. Our childcare plan will reduce costs dramatically. We are committed to addressing housing affordability. We were there for Canadians when the COVID recession hit, and we will be there for Canadians as we face this challenge together.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Madam Speaker, last summer, Health Canada caused an uproar when it wanted to increase pesticide residue in foods. The anger of the public pushed the government to delay the decision because it was on the verge of an election. But imagine how concerning it is to see the closeness between Health Canada and the biotechnology and pesticide industry. Now Health Canada is apparently thinking of letting GMO producers self-regulate using voluntary transparency. 100 organizations wrote to the government 3 weeks ago to ask it to back down. Will it do it? That's my question. The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank my colleague for her excellent question. The question of pesticides is one that concerns us a great deal. That is why we decided to intervene on this issue. We have made a number of commitments during the election campaign, commitments that we will work on over the coming month. It's an important issue. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Madam Speaker, science and the precautionary principle should take precedence when it comes to pesticides and GMOs. It seems the government is moving towards less transparency when more is needed. It seems that the government is listening more to industry than to farmers and people who want to know what's on their plates. The Bloc Québécois is proposing an inquiry on the ties between the Health Canada and the biotechnology and pesticide industry. As the government agree that more transparency is needed. The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We fully agree on the need to have greater transparency. That is why we asked for an independent review of some of the processes that are already in place with regard to pesticide approvals. We will continue to do the work in relation to this issue over the coming months. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Yesterday's PBO report is crystal clear. Under this Liberal government, inequality has reached unparalleled levels. The ultra-rich are richer than ever in this Prime Minister's Canada. But still, Liberals resist a wealth tax and do nothing about overseas tax havens. Madam Speaker, Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, to keep a roof over their head, and to pay their bills. In the fiscal update next week, are the Liberals going to put the interests of the ultra-rich ahead of those of everyone else yet again?
L'honorable ministre du Tourisme.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for the question.
Committed to asking those who prospered during the pandemic to help pay a little bit more for those who did not. Our platform committed to raise corporate income taxes on the largest, most profitable banks and insurance companies and introduce a temporary Canada Recovery dividend given that they've recovered faster. We are working to implement a global minimum tax. 136 OECD G20 framework members have already signed up.
I remember for North Island Powell River.
Madam Speaker, this government has a pattern of punishing the poor and rewarding the rich. After clawing back the GIS from the most vulnerable seniors in this country and then failing to fix it for months, finally the Deputy Prime Minister committed to fixing this issue quickly, but in many cases, this is far too late. Working seniors across this country are already living on the streets. Stop punishing seniors with red tape. Will this government promise to get it done now so seniors get this much-needed amount of money immediately?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Seniors.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, we know just how challenging this pandemic has been for seniors. But Madam Speaker, every single step of the way, our government has been there to support seniors, especially the most vulnerable, by strengthening their GIS, Madam Speaker. We moved very quickly to provide immediate and direct support to seniors, Madam Speaker, this summer. When it comes to that issue, Madam Speaker, we're working hard to find a right solution to ensure that and support those most affected. As always, we will be there for seniors.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Millions of families across Canada are being left behind by the exponential rise in the cost of necessities like gas and groceries due to the reckless Liberal spending. The burden of inflated cost of living is especially felt by Canadians who live outside of the transportation hubs of central Canada, like the working class families in my riding. Canadian families are struggling right now, yet the Liberals plan to spend even more, further ballooning costs of necessities. When will the Liberals admit that their policies are responsible for the inflation crisis and clean up their mess?
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I congratulate my honourable colleague on her election and would like to say that we understand that the economy recovery is not equal across the board, but here are the results of our plan, Madam Speaker. 154,000 new jobs created in November, 5.4% annualized GDP growth in Q3, 106% of jobs recovered, AAA credit rating, the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. The Conservatives don't like that the economy is growing, but we do, and so do Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. According to a recent study, the cost of food will increase by 5 to 7% in 2022, adding nearly $1,000 to the food basket of an average four-person family. The Liberals' inflation increases are pushing Canadian families to their limits. The Prime Minister is responsible for this failure. Will the Liberals finally start worrying about monetary policy? The Honourable Minister of Tourism. Madam Speaker, it's a real honor to debate with my former student from Saint Jean campus. We're two graduates of Saint Jean campus, but the results of our plan are working. 150 more thousand jobs created in November, 5.4% increase in the GDP, 106% of jobs recovered. We are moving ahead with the economy. Conservatives don't like it. We like it, and so do Canadians. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Madam Speaker, the student has surpassed the master. Madam Speaker, for the second time since the beginning of the pandemic, the Auditor General has been severe with regard to the Liberals' management. 1,156 travelers who tested positive to COVID were lost in the system. 1,156 people with COVID came into Canada, and the Public Health Agency lost track of them. We're talking about over 1,000 people who were walking around with a virus, perhaps without knowing it in Canada. How many other people were infected? How many classes closed? How many additional quarantine orders, Madam Speaker?
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We want to thank the Auditor General for her report and her conclusions. Our government has always ensured to protect Canadians and adapt our response to COVID-19 based on the most recent scientific data. We accept all the recommendations of the Office of the Auditor General from this audit, and work is already underway to follow up. We will act very quickly, and the Conservatives wanted to do a lot less. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable, they didn't do anything to shut down the borders immediately or get the vaccines. Other conclusions from the Auditor General, 30% of the results were missing or misidentified, unable to identify those individuals. So incoming travelers weren't tracked to see if they obeyed the quarantine. The statement was that the agency didn't apply supplementary border measures to limit the introduction of the variants in Canada and the virus. Canadians want to know why the Liberals have learned nothing 20 months later. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's difficult sometimes to understand what the Honourable Member is saying. Sometimes he wants us to do more, and sometimes he wants us to do less. We have worked very hard to ensure the health and safety of Canadians, and we will continue to do that. We will continue to take measures in the future.
Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the government's mismanagement of this pandemic has hit a new low, and declosing the border isn't working, and neither is testing. From February to June, this government misplaced 30% of COVID tests from people entering this country. Almost 400,000 tests lost. Mr. Speaker, there are now new testing requirements. This government isn't protecting Canadians 20 months into the pandemic, and they haven't gotten testing right. Why would Canadians trust you?
I do want to remind the honourable member to address the questions and comments through the chair and not directly to the member. The Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We certainly thank the Auditor General for her recent report and her findings. Our government has worked extremely hard to protect Canadians, working to address the issues associated with COVID-19 based on the latest science and evidence. We are accepting all of the recommendations of the Auditor General, and work is already underway to ensure that we are learning from some of the observations that she has made. But we have acted quickly and we have acted boldly to ensure that we are protecting the health and security of Canadians at a time when the Conservatives wanted us to do less, and that is what Canadians expect, and that is what we will continue to do.
Starting to get a little bit loud on this side when the ministers are trying to answer the question. I'm sure the honourable members want to hear the question so they can ask the response, so they can ask another question. The honourable member for Thornhill.
46,000 people from April, June this year who landed at a border in U.S. border airports, I should say, and immediately crossed into Canada by land, all to circumvent the ineffective air travel restrictions they put in place. Yesterday's AG report said that no recommendations were ever given to the government to enforce different rules for air and land. So these arbitrary rules on Canadian travels have been a boon for American airports. How many jobs has the minister created in the Buffalo airport, and when is he going to stand up for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I have said a number of times today, the government has worked very hard to protect the health and security of Canadians. That is what Canadians expect a responsible government to do. We certainly recognize and acknowledge the recommendations that were made by the Auditor General. We can and shall do better going forward, but we have done extremely hard work. We have put in place measures that have been effective in protecting the health and security of Canadians, and we are going to continue to do that.
I want to remind the members of the official opposition one more time that when someone else has the floor, to listen to the answer, even though they may not like the answer, and prepare for their next question instead. The honourable member for Shefford.
Madam Speaker, we learned yesterday that groceries will increase by 7% next year. This means it will cost nearly $1,000 more for a family. Madam Speaker, this is extremely bad news also for seniors between the ages of 65 to 74. And the government is refusing to increase the old age security for them. With the increase in prices, they're creating two classes of seniors. is literally forcing people to take groceries out of their cart and putting them back on the shelves and go line up for a Christmas basket. What will it take for the government to understand that it needs to increase the pension for all seniors? The Honourable Minister for Seniors.
Speaker, Madam Speaker, our government's priorities have always been to support seniors, especially those most vulnerable. But when it comes to our record on seniors, Madam Speaker, I'm proud of our record. One of the first things we did as a government is to restore the age of eligibility for OAS back to 65. We have enhanced the CPP. We have strengthened the OAS and GIS. Madam Speaker, we will be increasing OAS by 10% for those older seniors. We have an ambitious agenda for seniors, and we're going to continue to make sure we deliver for seniors across Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Madam Speaker, that's not what we're talking about. It'll take more than words. It'll take action. There are too many seniors who are being left behind. Not only is the government refusing to help those under 75 years of age, but it's attacking working seniors getting the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS. It's cutting benefits for those who lost their jobs in the pandemic and who got CERB. We have the figures. We're talking about more than 183,000 seniors who will have to lose $3,500 on average. The government is cutting all of the GIS for 83,000 people. 83,000 people who are going to be in a precarious financial situation while food costs are exploding. Why is the government attacking those who are most vulnerable?
Strengthening income security for seniors has been a top priority for our government, and that's why, Madam Speaker, our government has strengthened GIS for vulnerable seniors. We provided, Madam Speaker, one-time payments for seniors during the pandemic to afford the things that they need. We will be increasing support through OAS for older seniors. We have an ambitious agenda for seniors. We're going to continue to make sure we have their backs. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Madam Speaker, 2022 marks the Platinum Jubilee of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In 1975, 2002, and 2012, the governments of the day issued Jubilee medals to mark this historic occasion and to deliver them to deserving Canadians. If these past 20 months has shown us anything, it's that there are so many deserving Canadians who stepped up in the fight against COVID-19. Yet here we stand in December 2021 and no announcement from this government for the Platinum Jubilee Medal. So to the Minister of Canadian Heritage, will he take immediate action to create a Platinum Jubilee Medal to recognize so many deserving Canadians on this momentous historical occasion?
The Honourable Minister.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
March the 70th anniversary of the Queen's reign, and we're going to provide funding to communities across the country to celebrate the Jubilee and all the things we've accomplished together. And many countries in the Commonwealth are still considering options, and we'll be sharing the rest of our plans for this celebration in due time, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Madam Speaker, in due time? Unless their calendar was broken, they've known 2022 has been coming for some time. But Madam Speaker, whether it's truck drivers, whether it's first responders, whether it's healthcare workers, whether it's those working in the food supply chain, whether it's the military, whether it's veterans, all of these Canadians stepped up over the last 20 months during the fight against COVID-19 and are so deserving of recognition through a Platinum Jubilee Medal. Madam Speaker, will the minister do the right thing and take this platinum opportunity to recognize Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, as we said, we'll be sharing the rest of our plans in due time. And of course, we recognize the hard work of all Canadians, all the efforts of Canadians during pandemic. You know, and one of the things we can do, Madam Speaker, to respect the work and the efforts of all Canadians is to get vaccinated, Madam Speaker. And maybe that's a thing that the Conservative may want to consider.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Backlogs at IRCC continue to grow. As of October, there were 1.8 million applications in backlog and counting. Those aren't just numbers. They are families that remain separated, Canadian businesses unable to fill labor shortages, and refugees stranded in Afghanistan. This Liberal-made backlog is causing immense mental health issues at a time when loved ones need to be together, our economy needs workers, and refugees are desperate for safety. What concrete steps is this government taking to finally address the disastrous Liberal-made backlogs?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
No question that the COVID-19 pandemic has posed unprecedented challenge for our immigration system when we continue to have demand to come into Canada at a time when our borders were closed. But Madam Speaker, I have good news for the member opposite. Month after month after month, we have set records in our nation's history, due in large part to the work of my predecessor, the member from Eglinton Lawrence. And I can tell Madam Speaker, the member opposite, that we are on pace to hit an all-time record with 401,000 new Canadians admitted this year.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
As the minister pats himself on a job well failed, Deepak Talwar is a business owner in Saskatoon. He and his family left India for Canada in 2017 and have been waiting for years to hear any word on their applications. This story is just one of thousands of newcomers who are lost in the black hole of Liberal-made backlogs. My office hears these cases every day and the devastating effects it has on people. It is damaging Canada's reputation around the world. When is the government going to stop hiding behind excuses and finally get something done on immigration backlogs?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
I thank the honourable member for his concern, and I'd point out when he's looking at the role immigration plays in the economy, we are going to set a record for the number of people who are admitted to Canada this year. I'd also point out that as of last month, 106% of the jobs lost during this pandemic have now been recovered, making our labour force participation rate the highest in the history of our country. We will make the necessary investments to reduce the backlog. I'm going to work on this issue. It has my full attention, and I look forward to sharing future investments in the near term with the member opposite.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
The Auditor General released a damning report about the systemic failure of the Liberal government in ensuring temporary foreign workers are protected. Many workers tested positive for COVID-19 and some went home in a body bag. The government said that they'll take immediate action, but inspections only got worse. Employers were found to be compliant with regulations even though there was little or no evidence to support it. Are these lives dispensable to the government, or will the Liberals end this exploitation by giving all migrant workers permanent residence status now?
The Honourable Minister of the Honourable Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion.
Pardon me. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The health and safety of temporary foreign workers is of the utmost importance to the government, and I want to thank every single temporary foreign workers for what they've done for our food security over the course of COVID. Like every worker in Canada, they deserve to be safe in their workplaces. I thank the Auditor General in her office for the report and recommendation. We understand the importance of this audit, and we agree with its recommendations, and that they will guide our work ahead.
Honourable member for Skeena-Balclay Valley.
Madam Speaker, the Auditor General's latest report is a scathing look at this government's border measures. Turns out the Public Health Agency didn't track over a third of arrivals at the border. It didn't know whether people were actually staying in its quarantine hotels. A third of tests were missing or not matched up. And here's the worst part. Over 1,000 people tested positive for COVID and weren't even contacted. The border measures had one goal: to protect Canadians from COVID exposure. How did this government allow so many Canadians to be put at risk?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Protecting the health and safety of Canadians has been and always will be the top priority of this government. We thank the Auditor General for her report and her findings. Our government will work to ensure that we are implementing those recommendations on a go-forward basis. We have acted quickly and boldly, Madam Speaker, at a time when the Conservative Party wanted us to do less. We will continue to work to protect the health and safety of Canadians as we move forward.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Madam Speaker, I am glad to be able to rise today in recognition of International Human Rights Day, which recognizes worldwide the principle of the right to equality, justice, and freedom for all. Madam Speaker, International Human Rights Day also shines a light on the continued oppression of populations and groups around the world, such as the people of Myanmar. Can the Minister update this House on the work being done to support the people of Myanmar?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As a young activist, I worked for 2 years for the Canadian Human Rights Foundation, and I'm particularly proud to stand on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs today.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the answer. ask members who I am sure still want to ask questions to wait, and will allow the Honourable Minister to answer the question that was asked of him. The Honourable Minister.
Young activist, I worked for 2 years for the Canadian Human Rights Foundation, and I'm proud to stand on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs to thank the member for Mississauga-Streetville for her question, and I'm pleased to say that Canada has imposed additional sanctions today on entities affiliated with Myanmar's military regime. Today's announcement sent a clear message to the people of Myanmar that their resilience and quest for democracy and civil rights will not be diminished. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. It's mid-December and there's still no public accounts. Now, there's disturbing stories that the Liberal government has actually reopened the audited public accounts and changed them for political gain. Earlier this week, when we asked, the President of the Treasury Board refused to answer. So I'll ask it again. Did the government reopen the public accounts and alter them for political purposes?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Committed to financial transparency, included for COVID-19 response spending. Monthly financial results are reported throughout the year, and the Fiscal Monitor and departments provide quarterly financing reporting. Our annual audited financial statements in the public accounts will be tabled this month within normal legislated timelines. Thank you much.
I'm still hearing some heckling, so I would just ask members to please hold off. The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Madam Speaker, I wonder if it's normal to reopen the public accounts and doctor them. Now, the public accounts are audited financial statements of the government, yet the Liberals are delaying the tabling of these accounts. Out of control government Liberal spending, and yet no accounting of over $600 billion of taxpayers' money. Why has the government not yet tabled the public accounts? Is it because they are too busy cooking the books?
Madam Speaker, our government committed to ensuring transparency, particularly when it comes to expenditures related to COVID-19. Monthly statements have been presented all year long in the Financial Review, and departments provide statements every quarter. We're being transparent. Our audited statements will be tabled this month within normal timelines as indicated by law. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Oh, sorry, did I miss someone?
Member Saskatoon University, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I'd like to bring attention to some words shared by a Liberal minister. He said, we have not seen a model where we can get to net zero emissions by 2050 without nuclear, and that the fact of the matter is that it produces zero emissions. Kind words about the nuclear industry in Canada, but zero concrete action from this government on the nuclear industry here in Canada. Does the Minister of the Environment agree with his colleagues, or is he a science denier?
The longer it takes to come to order, the longer that means that there will be questions at the end of the day on other issues that some members may not be able to weigh in. So, the Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to see how popular I am with the opposition. Madam Speaker, we are focused very much on ensuring that we are doing our part to reduce greenhouse gas emissions around the world at a time where we are also looking to incent the development of a clean growth economy to create good jobs and economic opportunities for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. All non-emitting sources of energy are on the table and are part of the energy mix as we go forward. The Honourable Member knows that in Ontario, for example, nuclear energy is already an important part of the energy mix.
Again, just want to remind members, I know it's Friday, you're all anxious to get home, but we need to get through the day here. L'honorable député de Beauce.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Speaker, more and more seniors in my riding are facing financial hardship because of the pandemic. The current government has created two classes of seniors. The government really needs to review the indexation of pension funds. An extra dollar a month is not enough. The sharp increase of prices because of inflation is out of control, and our seniors deserve better. The Minister for Seniors keeps saying that she has an ambitious plan for seniors, but when is it going to be unveiled? The Honourable Minister for Seniors.
Madam Speaker, from the very beginning, our government's priority has been to help those most vulnerable, especially those most vulnerable seniors. That's why we have worked hard to strengthen income security and the OAS that they rely on, Madam Speaker. Our plan delivers on our promise to increase OAS by 10% for seniors 75 and older. We will continue to deliver for seniors, especially those who need it the most as they age and as their needs increase. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable député de Berthier-Masquinongé.
Madame la Présidente, pour que les Québécois puissent...
Madam Speaker, for Quebecers to eat locally, the essential contribution of temporary foreign workers is needed. That's why farmers pay thousands of dollars every single year to bring them into the country. This year, however, 243 workers left their jobs by breaking their contracts. Some are leaving for the United States. Others are being recruited illegally from Canada. Our farmers wake up in the morning to find their employees gone. What's the government doing to counter illegal raiding? The Honourable Minister. We're working hard to improve the temporary foreign worker system, especially for the agricultural sector. Frankly, we need more fairness between employers and workers. And that's what we're working hard on. The member for Berthier-Masquinongé. We all agree on fairness, but that's not what we're talking about. We know that the Immigration Department is overloaded with files that are piling up, and there's obvious problems. But the government must ensure that foreign workers go through the right channels when they get here. Those who illegally recruit temporary foreign workers from our farms are doing so to the detriment of our farmers and Quebec's food self-sufficiency. They're taking advantage of people who just want to improve their working conditions. So what is the government doing to fight illegal raiding that's harming Quebec's food sovereignty? The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees.
And there's no question that in our agricultural sector and across different sectors in the economy, the role that immigration plays in welcoming workers to the economy is very important for our collective well-being. I'd advise the honourable member that yesterday I had the pleasure of having a conversation with my Quebec counterpart, Minister Boulay, to discuss the source of international workers who can contribute to the economy. It's essential that as we bring more workers in, we strengthen the integrity of the system, and I'd be pleased to work with the honourable member to ensure that we have a system that works for all, that's fast, and helps contribute to a growing economy.
L'honorable député de Montmagny, Liselet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup.
Madame la Présidente, Monsieur Castillo et Monsieur...
Madam Speaker, Mr. Castillo and Ms. Ruel of Montmagny, in my riding, were fined $10,000 on November 29th when they came back from a short trip of less than 72 hours from the United States. They were turned back once at the border to complete ArriveCAN. But they received no warning that testing was mandatory until November 30th. The government's ambiguous communication implied that the test was already unnecessary. Does the government think this is okay for honest citizens who thought they were obeying the rules in place? The Honourable Minister. Our government will always take necessary steps to protect our borders and ensure Canadians' safety. These are important measures to limit the introduction and spread of COVID-19. They are mandatory measures. And we are doing our best to offer some flexibility for Canadians returning to Canada.
Christmas is coming, and because of ArriveCAN's bureaucratic red tape, fully vaccinated Canadians who are at home in a 2-week isolation have a tough choice to make ahead of the holidays. 1, don't buy presents. 2, turn off the heat in the middle of winter. 3, take out a payday loan. None of these options is acceptable. Will the government do the right thing and release these fully vaccinated Canadians from quarantine?
Honourable Minister.
Speaker, Speaker, as I just said, we have always taken the steps that are necessary to protect the health and safety of Canadians throughout the pandemic, and especially now as we continue to study the new variant of concern, Omicron. It is essential that we continue to use tools like ArriveCan, which protect the health and safety of Canadians. And my honourable colleague is worried about the holiday season. This government will always have the backs of Canadians to protect them, to provide them with the supports that they need so they can provide the gifts that they want to their loved ones as we head into the holiday season. Thank you, Madam.
The honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Madam Speaker, in October of 2020, the government stated that it does not directly or indirectly provide funds to the Union of Agricultural Work Committees, an NGO linked to the Canadian designated terrorist organization, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. This past October, Israel declared the UAWC a terrorist organization. In November, NGO Monitor reported that the UAWC is in fact receiving Canadian tax dollars. So I have a very serious question, Madam Speaker. Why are these Liberals funding terrorists?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. Canada is a steadfast ally of Israel and a friend of the Palestinians.
Order. I'm just going to ask the Minister to remove his mask for the interpreters. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. Canada is the steadfast ally of Israel and a friend of the Palestinian people. We are committed to the goal of a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in the Middle East, including the creation of a Palestinian state living side by side in peace and security with Israel. Our position remains that this can only be achieved through direct negotiations between the parties. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
L'honorable député de Marc-Aurèle-Fortin.
Madame la Présidente, il y a un an, notre gouvernement...
Madam Speaker, a year ago, our government launched the 50-30 Challenge, an initiative to encourage Canadian organizations to increase diversity and inclusion on boards and in senior management. The challenge has two goals: 50% representation of women on Canada's boards and in senior management, and 30% representation of underrepresented groups. On the first anniversary of the launch of the 50-30 Challenge, could the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry provide an update on what has been achieved so far?
L'honorable ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
Présidente, je remercie mon excellent...
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank my excellent colleague for his excellent question. Since the launch of this initiative, nearly 1,400 Canadian organizations have shown leadership and joined the 50-30 Challenge. We just announced $28.5 million in funding to support organizations participating in the 50-30 Challenge to achieve their diversity and inclusion goals. When our board leaders reflect the diversity of our communities throughout the country, Canadians are all better served.
Lake Country.
Madam Speaker, the average Canadian small business is now carrying $170,000 in new debt due to the pandemic. With business payroll taxes set to increase on January 1st, this will yet be another hit on their ability to hang on. Yet, when I asked the government to freeze this tax hike, the Associate Finance Minister shockingly said businesses, quote, can afford this.
Shame.
Is this the Liberal tax policy on small business, that there's no problem, there's no issue here? Small businesses can afford this?
The Honourable Minister for Tourism.
Let's be clear. The CPP enhancement represents a major step in improving retirement outcomes for workers and reducing the uncertainty that many Canadians feel about being able to save for retirement. It addresses important challenges faced by young Canadians saving for retirement, such as declining workplace pension plans and prolonged periods of low interest rates. This strengthens one of the most successful social programs we have as Canadians.
The honourable member for Dauphin, Swan River, Nipawin.
Madam Speaker, the Liberals plan to limit the amount of fertilizer the farmers can use. Any plan to reduce emissions must not reduce the maximum crop potential. Canadian farmers are among the most efficient users in the world of fertilizer. But instead of working with them, this government is threatening the future of our ag industry. The bigger the crop, the bigger the paycheck. So does the Agriculture Minister know how much her cap on fertilizer will cost farm families and rural communities?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the honourable colleague for that really important question. Farm families are absolutely at the very heart of all of our communities across the country. Supporting them, particularly through this very difficult time of the pandemic, has been a key and top priority for the government. We're going to continue to support farm families all across this country, and thank you so much to my honourable colleague for raising this very important issue. Thank you.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Madam Speaker, many seniors in my riding are frustrated. CERB was supposed to help those who are financial in need. Instead, after collecting CERB, many seniors received a letter to pay it back and lost their guaranteed income supplement. Now, through no fault of their own, they are strapped for cash because this government poorly explained how CERB would affect their pensions. Madam Speaker, when will this government stand up for our seniors instead of the fraudsters of CERB? Is this because of the member from Calgary Skyview?
Madam Speaker, since the beginning of this pandemic, we told Canadians and particularly seniors that we would be there for them as long as they needed, and that's exactly, Madam Speaker, what we're doing. We have always prioritized the most vulnerable seniors by strengthening their GIS. We provided immediate and direct support to seniors this summer, Madam Speaker. When it comes to the issue that member raised on CERB GIS, we are aware of this. We're working on it to find the best solution for those affected. As always, we will be there for seniors.
The member for Niagara Centre.
Madam Speaker, many Canadians are struggling to find affordable housing, especially in my riding of Niagara Centre. Yesterday, the Conservatives decided to play political games while bringing a motion that did not even mention, Madam Speaker, affordable housing, and proposed no constructive ideas, showing just how out of touch they are on this issue. Madam Speaker, can the Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion please tell this House about our government's real, concrete plan to address this issue?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the member for Niagara Centre for his question and for his advocacy on this important issue. Since coming to office, we have invested over $27 billion in affordable housing, and we have helped over 1 million families find the housing that they need. Despite the petty political games from the Conservative Party, we have a real housing plan that includes a new $4 billion housing accelerator fund, a more flexible first-time homebuyers program, and a rent-to-own program. We will not rest until every Canadian has a safe and affordable place to call home. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat Langford.
Madam Speaker, it's clear the RCMP is in need of serious reform. The RCMP have often taken concerning approaches which endanger Canadians rather than keeping them safe. In the previous Parliament, the Public Safety Committee released a report on systemic racism in policing in Canada. The report called for an overhaul of the RCMP, including better civilian oversight and a transition away from a paramilitary force. Will the Minister of Public Safety implement these recommendations so that the RCMP can better serve all communities?
The Minister.
I want to thank my colleague for the question, and I also look forward to working with him and all members in this chamber on this important issue. Madam Speaker, throughout the election as well as now, we are committed to ensuring that there is an appropriate degree of oversight, transparency, equity and representation within the RCMP. I have already had a number of important discussions with the Commissioner as well as other senior members of her executive team. Madam Speaker, we're going to continue to work with the RCMP to ensure that we provide top world-class law enforcement right across the country so that we can have public safety for all Canadians. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And that brings us to the end of question period. I got a point of order. The honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think all